The banks are changing the rules. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee because we're talking about, new changes from APRA regarding the consideration of deferrals for people who've been given mortgage holidays. Now, this feels like a broken record. We're talking about this again and again and again because the banks are providing longer mortgage holidays, and the moratorium on foreclosures has also been extended. Now, you've got what do the banks know, everyone, if we're just talking about a short-term lockdown, and then it'll all be good? This tells me they're preparing for worse times than actually were. We've got to remember, last year, the amount of payment deferrals, over $250 billion, guys. Over 10% of mortgages at one point were deferred. People weren't paying them. People were not paying them. APRA, the banks, they were coming all to the rescue to help us, guys. And this is coming from the Australian Banking Association pushing it forward. A lobby group, a business association of the banks. Now, are their interests aligned with our interests or the public's interests or homeowners' interests? They want to maintain the value of their assets, which is the housing. You can't see them wanting a correction anytime soon, can you? We also have the Australian Prudential Regulation Authority, and it's been cut off here on my thing. I'll fix that later. But this is a government agency, and it's an organisation under Treasury. It's a statutory authority of the government agency for the Australian financial services industry. So they provide us with stats, they make decisions, they, in some ways regulate the banks. So what's happened is we've got mortgage holidays coming back, and now deferrals aren't going to be considered as being in arrears. Now the banks need to report on this information to APRA, and they have to monitor them, and they get in trouble if they don't report it properly. Now, arrears is money that should have been paid. If you're late on a loan or late on a payment, you're in arrears. Now, because the banks are all offering these extended holidays, they don't need to report this information as in arrears, so they'll probably report it as something else, everyone. So they're changing the rules, guys. So the Australian Prudential Regulation Authority has announced regulatory support for banks offering temporary financial assistance to borrowers impacted by COVID-19. Well, it really should be framed as impacted by the government interventions attempting to mitigate the spread of COVID-19. That's what's impacting people. Okay, most people are not being impacted by COVID-19 here in Australia. They're being impacted by the government interventions, lockdowns, and restrictions of the ability for people to work and do trade. We need to remember that, everyone. That's what's actually happening here. Because that doesn't come without a price. And I'll just, bring up this little chart here just to refer you, to all the debt that people don't seem to worry about anymore. Because even all of this, if your loan's deferred, you're still paying it back. You're still accruing interest. You'll still have to pay it back at a later date. The house always wins. A number of authorised deposit-taking institutions have announced COVID-19 support packages that will provide the affected borrowers with an option to defer their loan repayments. These packages have been offered to small businesses and home loan customers. I feel sorry for anyone that has to resort to this. And if you have to take advantage of it, don't feel bad, do it. The problem is you just need to think about, are you just delaying the inevitable? If you're in a business and you're borrowing more and more money and using that, like paying for your operating costs, you're not like the government. The state government here in Queensland, they do that. They borrow money and use it just to pay for operating, pay for wages, not for CapEx. And because they've got, all of us tax cattle, they can get away with that. Unfortunately, in a small business, you can't. And this is why I was a bit confused about the RBA pushing out loans and more loans and trying to encourage the banks to lend to small businesses. Because, with our first recession in 28 years, with all of these unknowns, are you going to rush to borrow? But, I forgot, the housing pinata. Maybe some people in the construction industry did borrow to, expand and grow. But For a lot of businesses, for the little cafes, the small businesses now that can be hammered shut at any whim of a premier, I'd hate to be in that situation. In response, APRA is providing regulatory relief to assist ADIs in supporting their customers through this period. For eligible borrowers, ADIs will not need to treat the period of deferral as a period of arrears or a loan restructuring. This will apply to loans that are granted a repayment deferral of up to 3 months before the end of August 2021. This will provide banks and borrowers with additional flexibility to manage the period ahead. The measures apply regardless of whether or not the borrower has previously been granted a repayment deferral due to the impact of the pandemic. For transparency, APRA will require ADIs to publicly disclose and report the nature and terms of any repayment deferrals and the volume of loans of which they are applied. ADIs must also still continue to provision for these loans under relevant accounting standards. Today's announcement largely mirrors the temporary support measures APRA announced in March 2020. Yes, remember, that long ago. We're still in this mess, everyone. We're still in this mess. This temporary treatment ended on the 31st of March 2021. APRA will release an updated prudential standard in July 2021, formalizing this new treatment in line with the approach taken in 2020. So they're doing the same thing. If we have a look here, we can see the previous statement. When a borrower who has been meeting their repayment obligations until recently chooses to take up the offer not to make repayments as part of a COVID-19 support package, the bank need not treat that period of repayment holiday as a period of arrears. Similarly, loans that have been granted a repayment deferral as part of a COVID-19 support package need not be regarded as restructure. APRA will be writing to all authorized deposit-taking institutions to advise them of the specific reporting treatment for loans subject to these support arrangements. APRA will require ADIs to report to APRA and publicly disclose the nature and terms of any repayment deferrals and the volume of loans to which they are applied. ADIs must also still continue to provision for these loans under relevant accounting standards. Now, you can see here, we've got these regulatory bodies, these government agencies under Treasury, setting requirements, rules, standards for the bank, managing it. Now, here's the question that I'll put to you, the solution or the takeaway. Do you think, and I'll do this as a poll actually, so we'll look at it in the weekly poll review on my Twitch show. Do you think Australians would rather have a free market or a regulated market? So if you've got people there that are predicting or hoping for a correction in the housing market, do you think the majority would want that? Do you think they'd rather, some freedom in the economy so there can be winners and losers? So sometimes when a business fails, it's allowed to fail. So you remove mechanisms for the government and the banks to come to the rescue again and again. Or would you imagine the majority of people, not what you would want, the majority of people, the average punter, would want a regulated economy, stability above anything else? I'm starting to suspect the case for a free market here in Australia. I mean, people think we actually have a free market here in Australia. That's ludicrous in themselves. That they're blaming all of the issues with our current, political and social discrepancy, the growing disparity between those that are wealthy and those that are not across society on capitalism, when we've got a highly regulated economy. What do you reckon? Let me know your take on that one and vote in the poll. I'll do this after I record this video. Take care, guys. Thank you all for watching. Like, share, subscribe to the channel. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on this one in the comments down below. If you're a fan and enjoy the content I create here, there are a few ways you can support us. You can join us on YouTube or Patreon. You can sign up using our affiliate links at Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or AussieBroadband. You can buy a merch from HeiseSays, use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, or support us via PayPal. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.